about Delhi riots, I think one other thing that happened just a few months later was the rioting in Bangalore, although for a shorter period of time. But uh, you know, there is very little spoken about it, and I think that has in a way to do with what the trigger was for it. And this was also a time when those of us who have been following you regularly on Twitter, we know that you were your account was suspended on Twitter. And today, what I mean, just today, we've seen Donald Trump's account being suspended, and that again raises that question about where are social media giants headed? Because when social media came in, a lot of us were very hopeful, that this will be the regulator of sorts for the mainstream media. This will sort of empower people to actually call out a lot of false narratives. But today, what we are seeing is that social media itself, has, it's a reason for us to debate and sort of explore what is the way that we have to go forward. So, how do you look at these social media platforms today? Who have taken it upon themselves to again do some things that a certain section of intellectuals used to do earlier, which is to control the way people think and sort of curate things, and they've sort of ceasing to be a medium in that sense. So how do you look at this?
Yeah, so it's a very interesting question. And first of all, let me the question of Bangalore riots, as you know, and I never fail, I never tire of using this, saying this phrase that we spare the fundamentals, but we snare the fundamentalists. And this is what people who condemned the Bangalore riots they did. They did not mention the fact that blasphemy is a punishable offense in Islam. And the reason for that is that it has been condemned in the most strictest of terms in their holy book. So it is the fundamentals that are telling you how to act. And if somebody who believes in fundamentals is a fundamentalist, but fundamentalist is thought of as an extremist or radical. There's nothing radical in it. And that is what happened. Kamlesh Tiwari was one example. He was beheaded. And as we know, Mr. Owaisi and so many others, they almost did not, short of rejoicing his beheading, they were quite all right with it. It is because they genuinely feel, Gustakh-e Rasool ki ek hi saza sar tan se juda hai. And this is the problem that, when you talk about, so much hate being in the open, when you talk about SM or MSM acting against hate, and when you point out hate or hatred or bigotry, what you never point out is, the biggest mainstreaming of hate is actually religion. And you're absolutely fine with it. So much so that Indian infants who are aged 1 to 3 have been, 155 million of them have been categorized as Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, and Isai. Now, did the census lady or census man, I asked, knock on the door, and the door was opened by a 3-year-old or 2-year-old Indian infant, and the question was, are you a Muslim? Are you? And he said, no, I'm a Hindu, I'm a Muslim. It is so bizarre. And the reason, and that is why I worry for this country, because at one level we are progressing and, we want to shun so many things. But on the other hand, we are so all right with the mainstreaming of hatred. And we are so scared of pointing out the hatred that is spewed or that emanates from our scriptures, holy books. And this was the example, the Bangalore example that you took was exactly this. Now let me come to the strange thing that I feel as you're talking about the control of the social media biggies, or they call the big tech or whatever. Now in India, ironically, you see the control or the lessons or the teachings or the preachings for someone to control something actually emanates from the state, because our constitution has articles written in it that are controlling. For example, we don't have our freedom of speech is subject to a lot of restrictions, and those restrictions were increased by Jawaharlal Nehru in the First Amendment. We know that. Article 9, Clause 2A. So it is subject to public order, public decency, this, that. But the fact is, who is going to decide? Whenever you say something is subject to something, that this is hate speech, this is not, this is something which is bigoted, this is not this. You are the one who's editorializing. Not only you are choosing, you are acting as a judge, you're acting as a god, and it is completely subjective. I may think of something that was, for example, and my banning of Twitter is a perfect example. So my banning of Twitter, my banning by Twitter of the tweet where I quoted a holy verse was considered as a hate speech, and I was banned, I was blocked. But after 10 days or after I think 15, 20 days, I can't remember, I was unblocked and they apologized for it because somebody must have told her, "Arey pagal ho gaya kya? Ye to verse hai. Why are you blocking him?" Because by that logic, what you're saying is that that verse is hateful. Now you see what I mean.
You had quoted verbatim.
Verbatim. It was a verbatim quote, and people checked it, of course, and that is the reason why Twitter apologized and unblocked me. But you see how juvenile adults have started behaving because of fear, because they uh, inadvertently, almost immediately, you can say involuntarily, they read that tweet and they accepted that it is hateful, right? Any sensible guy, let's say in Twitter or somebody, some guy on Twitter said, "Oh, this is hateful." Then after 14 days, realization dawns, fear comes in, creeps in. That are you saying that a holy verse is hateful? So Twitter would have paid with its, I don't know what, maybe riots, I don't know. So they quickly apologize. But what I'm trying to say is that we are so comfortable with this ever-present hate and hatefulness that comes out of our religious scriptures that we don't even consider it as hate. And if by accident, if reality strikes us without us knowing that what would happen 15 days from now, we say that it is hateful. We then get so fearful and say, no, 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 we are wrong. That this is not hate. Now, this is what is happening. For example, I'll tell you, and it's really sad, and it is more sad in America because I would say I really like their First Amendment because I think it comes closest to what I perceive should be freedom of speech. That I never say it should be absolute in the sense that you can't have military secrets being divulged in the name of absolute freedom of speech. And if there is clear-cut, immediate, palpable incitement to riots, to violence, then that doesn't come into my criteria. Other than that, everything should be allowed, and that is essentially what American First Amendment is. If in that country you can have these guys who are SM chiefs and social directing, if in that country you can have so much power that these guys are now deciding what is hateful, what is not, what is going to incite, what won't, I think that is real tragedy, and that is very scary because you have brought in gray in something that was almost black and white. And in India, we have always lived with this gray for the last 70 years. Congress almost like a fascist state. The state is actually, if you look at it, all our rules that emanate from the Constitution are draconian. We still have Section 295A where you cannot offend religious sensibility. It started with in fact, the Britishers didn't have it. We had the Rangila Rasool case where Ilmuddin, assassinated the publisher of Rangila Rasool. There was no law. And Mahatma Gandhi, almost when he condemned the publication of Rangila Rasool and he almost de facto asked for a law, Britishers brought in that law. That law is still there. It's been almost 100 years. And we are proud that law exists. Anyone who we consider is offending religious sensibility. Now, I ask you, who are you to judge which religious sensibility is being offended? You have a holy book where 53% of the verses are condemning the non-believers, are condemning the kafirs. Does that not offend my sensibilities? Forget about religious sensibilities. That offends my sensibilities. So can I take action? No, I can't take action. So when you have this hypocrisy that has been built into you, you are children of clause 2, as I call them. We are all children of clause 2. I really, you have to give up at some point of time. There's no point protesting about it, because people are not going to change.
Right. And it's ironic that there is censorship for something like this, where things are either abstract or things are as they are, but people don't want to accept them even when it stares them in the face.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net.